The Son as the name and the names of the Father. He, however, whose light dawned from him, stretching himself out to give birth and knowledge to the members of the all. He is all these names without falsehood, and he truly is the Father's only first man. This is the one I call the form of the formless, the body of the incorporeal, the face of the invisible, the word of the inexpressible, the mind of the inconceivable, the spring that flowed from him, the root of those who have been rooted, the God of those who are ready, the light of those he illuminates, the will of those he has willed, the providence of those for whom he provides, the wisdom of those he has made wise, the strength of those he has given strength, the assembly of those with whom he is present, the revelation of that which is sought after, the eye of those who see, the spirit of those who breathe life, the life of those who live, the unity of those who are united. While all the members of the all exist in the single one, as he clothes himself completely, and in his single name, he is never called by it. And in the same unitary way, they are simultaneously this single one as well as all of them. He is not divided as a body, nor is he split apart by the names in which he exists, in the sense that this is one thing and that is something else. Nor does he change by, nor does he alter through the names in which he is, being now like this and now something different, so that he would be one person now and someone else at another time. Rather, he is entirely himself forever. He is each and every one of the members of the all eternally at the same time. He is what all of them are, as Father of the all, and the members of the all are the Father as well. For he is himself knowledge for himself, and he is each one of his qualities and powers. And he is himself the eye for all that he knows, seeing all of it in himself, having sun and form. Thus, his powers and qualities are innumerable and inaudible because of the way in which he gives birth to them. The births of his words, his commands, and his members of the all are innumerable and indivisible. He knows them, for they are himself. When they speak, they are all in the one single name. And if he brings them forth, it is in order that they may be found to exist as individual qualities, forming a unity. The aeons procreate. He did not, however, reveal his multiplicity at once to the members of the all, nor did he reveal his sameness to those who had issued forth from him. Now all those who had gone forth from him, that is, the aeons of the aeons, being emissions born of a procreative nature, also procreate through their own procreative nature, to the glory of the Father, just as he had been the cause of their existence. This is what we said earlier. He makes the aeons into roots and springs and fathers. For that which they glorified they bore, for it possesses knowledge and wisdom, and they have understood that they have gone forth from the knowledge and the understanding of the all. If the members of the all had risen to give glory according to the individual power of each aeon, they would have brought forth a glory that was only a semblance of the Father, who himself is the all. For that reason, they were drawn, through the singing of praise and through the power of the oneness of Him from whom they had come forth, into mutual intermingling, union, and oneness. From their assembled fullness, they offered a glorification worthy of the Father, an image that was one and at the same time many, because it was brought forth for the glory of the one, and because they had come forward toward Him, who Himself is the entirety of the all. The three fruits of glorification. This, then, was a tribute from the aeons to the one who had brought forth the all, a first fruit offering of those who are immortal and eternal. For when it issued from the living aeons, it left them perfect and full, caused by something perfect and full. Since they were full and perfect, having given glory in a perfect manner in communion. For inasmuch as the Father lacks nothing, He returns the glory they give to those who glorify Him, so as to make them manifest by what He Himself is. The cause that brought about for them the second glorification is, in fact, that which was returned unto them from the Father, when they understood the grace from the Father through which they had borne fruit with one another, so that just as they had been bringing forth by glorifying the Father, in the same way they might also themselves be made manifest in their act of giving glory, so as to be revealed as being perfect. They became fathers of the third glorification, which was produced in accordance with the free will and the power they had been born with, enabling them to give glory in unison while at the same time independently of one another, according to the will of each. Thus, both the first and the second glorifications are perfect and full, for they are manifestations of the perfect and full Father, and of the perfect things that issued from the glorification of Him who is perfect. The fruit of the third glorification, however, is produced by the will of each individual aeon and of each of the Father's qualities and powers. The fruit is a perfect fullness, to the extent that what the aeons desire and are capable of in giving glory to the Father comes from their unions as well as from each of them individually. For this reason, they exist as minds over minds, words over words, superiors over superiors, degrees over degrees, being ranked one above the other. Each of those who glorify has his own station, rank, dwelling place, and place of rest, which is the glorification he brings forth. The harmony of the aeons. For those who glorify the Father, all have their eternal offspring. They give birth by way of mutual help, and their emissions are unlimited and immeasurable. And no jealousy exists on the part of the Father towards those who have come forth from Him, because they are producing something like Himself and His image, for it is He Himself who is in the members of the all, giving birth and revealing Himself. Whomever He desires to make a father, He Himself is their Father, or a God. He Himself is their God. And He makes into members of the all the ones for whom He Himself is the all. In that place rightfully belong all those good names that the angels and rulers who have come into being in the world share as well, although the latter have nothing in common with the eternal ones. The aeons search for the Father. The whole structure of the aeons, then, is yearning and seeking to find the Father perfectly and completely, and this is their irreproachable union. Although the Father does reveal himself, he did not want them to know him from eternity, but he presented himself as something to be reflected upon and sought after, while keeping for himself that by which he is inscrutably pre-existent. For the Father gave the aeons a starting point and a route, so that their stations on the calm road leading to him, as to a school of good conduct, for he spread out faith and prayer for what they do not see, a firm hope in what they do not comprehend, a fertile love, longing for what they do not behold, an eternally receptive understanding of the mind, a blessing that is richness and freedom, and for their thoughts, the wisdom of one whose desire is the glory of the Father. The Spirit, for the Father, the exalted one, they know by his will, which is the Spirit that breathes through the members of the all and gives them a thought to search for the unknown. Just as somebody is moved by a fragrance to seek the source of that fragrance, and the fragrance of the Father surpasses such unworthy things, for its sweetness lets the aeons sense an indescribable pleasure, and gives them the thought that they should be united with the one who desires that they should know him in oneness, and that they should assist one another through the Spirit that is sown in them. They find themselves in a great and powerful inbreathing, where they are renewed in a speechless manner, and are formed, having no occasion to turn away through thoughtlessness from that in which they are placed. For they do not speak, but are silent about the glory of the Father, about him who has the power to speak. He manifested himself, though he cannot be spoken. They have him hidden in their thoughts. For that reason, the aeons kept silent about the way the Father exists in his form, his nature, and his greatness. But they have become worthy of knowing this through his Spirit. For he is unnameable and inaccessible. But through his Spirit, which is the trace by which he may be sought, he gives himself to them to be thought and spoken. For each of the aeons is a name corresponding to each of the Father's qualities and powers. Since he exists in many names, it is by mingling and through mutual harmony that they are able to speak of him by means of a richness of speech. Thus, the Father is a single name because he is one, but nevertheless innumerable in his qualities and names. The nature of the emission. The emission of the members of the all that comes from the one who is has not taken place by way of a division, as if it were a separation from the one who gave birth to them. Rather, their birth has the form of a spreading out, by which the Father spreads himself out into that which he wishes, in order that those who have gone forth from him may be as well. For just as the present aeon is single, yet divided into ages, ages into years, years into seasons, seasons into months, months into days, days into hours, and hours into moments. In the same way, the true aeon also is single yet multiple, being glorified by small as well as by great names, according to what each is able to comprehend. Or, to use other similes, it is like a spring that remains what it is even if it flows into rivers, lakes, streams, and canals. Or like a root that spreads out into trees with branches and fruits. Or like a human body that is indivisibly divided into limbs and limbs, main limbs and extremities, large ones and small. Free will, wisdom, and the collaboration of the aeons. The aeons were brought forth according to the third fruit, by using the freedom of the will and the wisdom of the Father. By using the freedom of the will and the wisdom the Father had graciously given them for their thoughts. They do not desire to give glory together with that which the individual fullnesses may produce in unison as words or glorification. Nor do they desire to give glory together with the all as a whole. Nor does one desire to do so together with another aeon who has already attained a higher level or station than himself, without obtaining what has been desired from the ones who reside in that higher name and the higher station. He receives him with himself at that higher level, and the one who desired to ascend to him engenders, as it were, himself, engendering himself through that other with what he is, renewing himself with what has come to him from his brother, seeing him and praying to him about this matter. In order that this may happen, the one who has desired to give glory does not say anything to him about it, except this only. For a boundary to speech is placed in the fullness, making them keep silent about the Father's unreachability, but allowing them to speak about their desire to reach him. The presumption of the youngest aeon. It came upon one of the aeons that he should undertake to reach the inconceivability of the Father, and to give glory to it as well as to his ineffability. It was a word belonging to the unity, although it was not one that arose out of the union of the members of the all, nor from him who had brought them forth. For he who has brought forth the all is the Father. For this aeon was one of those who had been given wisdom, with ideas first existing independently in his mind, so as to be brought forth when he wanted it. Because of that, he had received a natural wisdom, enabling him to inquire into the hidden order, being a fruit of wisdom. Thus, the free will with which the members of the all had been born caused this one to do what he wanted with no one holding him back. Now, the intention of this word was good, because he rushed forward to give glory to the Father, even though he undertook a task beyond his power, having desired to produce something perfect from a union in which he did not share and without having received orders. This aeon was the last to have been brought forth through mutual assistance, and he was the youngest in age. And before he had yet produced anything to the glory of the will, and in the union of the members of the all, he acted presumptuously out of an overflowing love, and rushed forward toward that which surrounds the realm of perfect glory. This happened in accordance with the Father's will. It was not without the will of the Father that this word had been brought forth, nor that he should rush forward. Rather, the Father had brought him forth for the things that he knew must take place. For the Father, in the realm of the all, now withdrew from him in order that the boundary should be firm that the Father had fixed. For it does not exist to prevent the unreachable from being reached, but because of the will of the Father, and also in order that the things that happened should be for the sake of an economy that was about to come. And it was not possible that it should not come to pass, for the revelation of the fullness. For this reason, then, it is wrong to condemn the movement that is the Word. Rather, we should speak about the movement of the Word as the cause that made an ordained economy come to pass. The Word is divided. Now, on the other hand, the Word gave birth to himself as a perfect, single one, to the glory of the Father who had desired him and was pleased with him. The things he had wished to grasp and reach, however, he produced as shadows, phantoms, and imitations. For he could not bear to look at the light, but looked at the depths, and he faltered. Because of this, he suffered a division and a turning away. From the faltering and the division came oblivion and ignorance of oneself and of that which is. His movement upward and his design to reach the unreachable hardened for him and remained in him. The sickness, however, which ensued when he was beside himself, arose from his faltering, that is, his failure to approach the glories of the Father, whose exaltedness is without end. That he did not reach, because he could not grasp it. The perfect part of the Logos re-enters the fullness. That which he had brought forth from himself as a unitary aeon hastened upward to that which was his, and to his kin in the fullness. He abandoned that which had come into being from deficiency, and what had issued from him in an illusion, since they did not belong to him. However, the one who had brought him forth with superior perfection from himself became weak after bringing him forth, like a female nature deprived of masculinity. For what issued from his presumptuous thought and his arrogance had existence from something that itself was deficient. Because of that, what was perfect in him left him and went upward to his own. He remained in the fullness, and the fact that he had been saved from served for him as a reminder. The one who hastened on high and the one who drew him to himself did not remain idle, but they brought forth a fruit in the fullness with a view to overthrowing what had come into being because of the deficiency. The offspring of the presumptuous thought. Those who came into being from the presumptuous thought resemble in fact the fullnesses of whom they are imitations, though they are phantoms, shadows, and illusions, deprived of reason and light, belonging to this empty thought, being nobody's offspring. For this reason also, their end will be like their beginning. Coming from that which was not, they will return to that which will not be. In their own eyes, however, they are great and powerful beings, more beautiful than the names that adorn them. though they are only their shadows, made beautiful by way of imitation. For the beauty one sees in an image derives from what the image represents. They thought of themselves that only they existed and that they had no beginning, since they saw no one existing before them. For this reason, they exhibited disobedience and rebellion, being unwilling to submit to the one who had brought them into existence. For they desired to command one another and to lord it over them in their vain love of glory, and the glory that they acquired became the cause of the structure that was to be. Being imitations, then, of those above, they exalted themselves in lust for dominion, each one of them according to the magnitude of the name of which he was a shadow, fantasizing that he would become greater than his fellows. Thus, the thought of these others was not idle, but in accordance with the model of those whose shadows they are, where every thought becomes a sun. So do the things they think about also become their offspring. Because of this, it came to pass that many issued from them as offspring, fighters, warriors, troublemakers, rebels, disobedient people who love to dominate, and all the others of that sort who derive from these. The conversion. The Word, then, was the cause of these things coming into being, and he became increasingly desperate. He was dumbfounded. Instead of perfection, he saw deficiency. Instead of unity, he saw division. Instead of stability, he saw disturbance. Instead of rest, upheaval. He was unable to bring their love of disturbance to an end, nor could he destroy it. He had become utterly powerless when his wholeness and his perfection had abandoned him. Those who had come into being did not know themselves, nor did they know the fullness from which they had originated, nor did they know him who had become the cause of their existence. For since the Word was in such an unstable condition, he no longer attempted to bring forth offspring in the form of emissions, which are fullnesses of glory, originated for the glory of the Father. Instead, what he brought forth was feeble and small creatures, infected with the same sicknesses with which he himself had been infected. The imitation that had taken place solitarily in this state was what had been the cause of the things that do not exist on their own account from the beginning. In this defective state, he continued to produce such deficient beings until he began to condemn the irrational things he had produced. This condemnation became a judgment directed against them, that is, those opposing the judgment, aiming at their destruction, while wrath pursues them. It is, however, a helper and a savior from their disposition and their rebelliousness, for from it comes the conversion that is also called repentance, and that takes place when the Word takes on a different disposition and a different mind, having turned away from evil and having turned toward the good. Remembrance and prayer. After conversion followed the remembrance of those who exist, and the prayer on behalf of the one who had returned to himself by means of what is good. For he remembered the one who was in the fullness and entreated him Then his brothers, one by one, though always together with their fellows, then all of them together, but before all of these, the Father. This prayer and supplication helped to make him turn toward himself and toward the all, for their remembrance of him caused him to remember the pre-existent ones, and this is the remembrance that calls out from afar and brings him back. A new order of powers. Now all his prayer and remembrance were numerous powers, also produced in accordance with the boundary mentioned, for there was nothing idle in his thought. These powers were much better and greater than those belonging to the imitation, for the latter have the substance of darkness, having come into being from illusory imitation and a vain, presumptuous thought. These, on the other hand, are from a thought that had known them in advance. Those, then, are like oblivion and heavy sleep. They are like people who have troubled dreams, in which someone pursues them and they are surrounded. These others, however, are for him like beings of light, who are waiting for the rising sun, as when the dreamers have been able to see dreams in their sleep that are truly sweet. The emissions of the remembrance, they did not have more substance, nor did they have greater glory, for they are not equal to the pre-existent ones. If, on the other hand, they were superior to the imitations, the only thing that made them elevated above them was that they were from a good disposition, for they had not come out of the sickness that arose, which is the good disposition of him who searched for the pre-existent, having prayed and brought himself to what is good. He sowed in them an inclination to seek and pray to what is glorious and pre-existent, and he also sowed in them an ability to think about it and a power of reflection to make them realize that something greater than themselves existed before them, but they had not understood what it is. Bringing forth harmony and mutual love by means of that thought, they acted in unity and unanimity, since to unity and unanimity they owed their existence. War between the two orders. The others, moreover, they now attempted to overpower in a lust for domination, because they were nobler than those previous ones, and they had risen up against them. They had not surrendered. They thought they were self-engendered and without beginning, and, with their manner of giving birth, the first to bring forth others. The two orders fought against each other, struggling for command with such a result that they were engulfed by forces and material substances in accordance with the law of mutual combat. And they too acquired lust for domination and all the other passions of this sort, and consequently, empty vainglory pulls them all toward the desire of lust for domination, and not one of them remembers what is superior or confesses it. The powers of remembrance were adorned with the names of the pre-existent, whose likenesses they were. The order of those of this kind was in harmony with itself and with each other. It fought, however, the order of those of the imitation, because that order waged war against the likenesses, and so it acted against itself on account of its rage. Because of this, it happened against one another as well that they might prevail, he did not desist. Their envy, their malice, rage, violence, lust, and ignorance ruled, as they were producing various kinds of matter and all sorts of powers, mixed with one another and in great number, while the Word, who had been the cause of their production, waited in his mind for the revelation of the hope that would come to him from above. The words hope. For the word that had moved possessed hope and expectation about what is superior. He turned away from those who belonged to the shadow in every way, since they opposed him and were very rebellious. But in those who belonged to the remembrance, he found rest. In those who had come into being by way of remembrance, the Word invisibly gave birth, in accordance with what existed in them, to the one who had hastened upward, and who was in the superior state, remembering the one who had become deficient. The Word did this until there would shine forth on him from above the life-giving light born from the thought of brotherly love of the pre-existent fullnesses. Intercession in the fullness. For the Father's aeons, who had not suffered, took upon themselves the fall that happened as if it were their own, with concern, goodness, and great kindness, the all that they should be instructed about by the one, all be confirmed through thee, to end the deficiencies. This part is cut off a little bit here, that's why there's gaps. The order that now came into being for him originated from the one who had hastened upward, and from that which he brought forth for himself, and from the fullness as a whole. He who had hastened upward became on behalf of him who had become deficient, an intercessor with the emitted aeons, who had come into being in accordance with what really exists. And after he had entreated them, they on their part consented with joy, benevolence, and harmonious agreement to help the one who had become deficient. They united and prayed to the Father with a salutary mind that help might come from above, from the hand of the Father for his glory. For the one who had become deficient could be made perfect in no other way except by the fullness of the Father consenting, pulling him toward itself, revealing him, and giving what he lacked. The fullness produces the Son. Through this joyously willed agreement that arose, they brought forth the fruit as an offspring of their concord. It was a single one, since it came from the members of the all, and manifested the countenance of the Father, of whom the aeons had been thinking when they gave glory and prayed for help for their brother. And the Father had shared their sentiment, so that they produced this fruit willingly and with joy. The manifestation of the consent in which he had united with them, which is the Son of his will, revealed itself. The Son of the good pleasure of the all placed himself on them as a garment, by means of which he could give perfection to the one who had become deficient, and confirmation to the perfect. He is the one who is rightfully called Savior and Redeemer, the well-pleasing and the beloved, the Advocate, the Christ, and the light of those who are appointed in accordance with the ones from whom he had been brought forth. For he had come into being clothed in the names of those who are established. Or what other name is there to call him except Son? which we have already used, for he is the knowledge of the Father, who wished to become known. The aeons not only produced the countenance of the Father whom they had been glorifying, as has been written above, but they produced their own as well. For in giving glory, the aeons produced their own countenance and aspect. They were produced as an army for him, as for a king, in which those who belong to this thought share the command and are united in agreement. They went forth in a form that consisted of many forms, so that the one whom they were going to help should see those to whom he had prayed for help, as well as the one who brought it to him. For the fruit we have spoken about, of their concord with him, is vested with the power of the all. In him the Father placed all things, what was before, what is, and what will be. He was well equipped. He revealed the things Father had placed in him. He had not given, but had entrusted them to him. He took charge of the economy of the all by means of the authority vested in him from the beginning and the power needed to execute it. In this way, he proceeded to carry out his revelation. The Son reveals himself. He in whom the Father dwells, and in whom dwell the members of the all, revealed himself first to the one who had lost his faculty to see, and showed himself to those who wanted to gain vision, by shining forth with that perfect light. He first filled him with inexpressible joy, made him whole and complete, and also gave him that which came from each of the aeons. For this is the nature of the first joy. He also sowed in him invisibly a word designed for understanding, and gave him the power to detach and dispel from himself those who were disobedient to him. This is how he showed himself to him, to the ones who had come into being because of him. However, he revealed himself in a form beyond their comprehension. He came to them as a flash, revealing himself suddenly, and then withdrawing like a flash of lightning. He put an end to their mutual entanglement through this sudden revelation, for which they were unprepared and which they did not expect, since they had no knowledge of it. I'm going to leave it there. I've got 2 more parts to this reading, the Tripartite Tractate, and I'm going to do part 3 in a couple of weeks. I've got a meditation that's actually really cool coming out next week. And then after that, I will go ahead and put part 3 up. Hope you have a lovely week. Thank you so much for listening. And please let me know in the comments if you had any epiphanies with this reading. Take care.